Hi guys, my name is Yashwant and I'm from Oracle Fusion for All. I have a 6+ years of experience, and out of that most of the time I worked on Oracle Fusion um, products like ADF, Identity and Access Management. So today this is all about ADF 11g demo. The overview, if you don't have any idea about the ADF 11g or ADF, any version of ADF, you can go through this video. You will get definitely a good idea on ADF and what it is all about, and how we can use ADF to develop any an application. So what is Oracle Fusion middleware? So Oracle has some of the products under this tag of Oracle Fusion middleware, which are identity management, SOA, BI, data integration, business process management, WebLogic, Web Center, Cloud Application Foundation, and our today's topic, ADF. So there are a couple of versions from ADF, which is started with a 10G or 9i, and right now we are going to discuss about 11G, which is using a JDeveloper 11117, and you can download a database, which is Oracle Database Express Edition, which is available on a OTN site for free. So you don't need a lot of efforts to start learning Oracle ADF. You just need to download a JDeveloper and download a database connection, and you can utilize the default HR schema provided by the Oracle, and you can make a connection and you can start developing a simple application, which we are going to do shortly in the same video. So how ADF is powerful? So let me tell you the example with the Oracle Fusion products. So be it any Oracle Fusion products. The 100% of the UI is based on this ADF. So apart from that Fusion middleware, there is a huge requirement out there in the market using ADF and develop a web application, or it could be a desktop application, or it could be a mobile application. So you can learn the ADF, and I'm sure if there is any requirement like a customization on your Fusion middleware products, you can definitely do like a 70 to 80% of the customizations, and remaining like 20 to 30%, maybe you have to understand the existing code in there. Maybe if you take the example for the OIM, so the UI code is based on ADF. So you have to understand the existing code to do any changes. To do that, you have to learn some ADF. You have to be clear with some concepts about ADF, how it works, and all those things. So we are going to build an application now, and we're going to, if you don't have any experience with ADF, if you don't if you don't have any idea about the terminologies, don't worry, I'm going to explain in detail. So this is very easy to build any application. If you talk about Java or any traditional way to build an application, you need a lot of effort, uh, through a code, or you can say this is a Java J2E advanced coding tool provided by Oracle. And once you develop this application, you can integrate with any sources like database, web services, or any Oracle apps, or it could be any other products of Oracle, or it could be any products of any other products in your organization. And if you see some of the key features and benefits of ADF, there are a lot of business components and out-of-box features provided by Oracle ADF, where you can drag and drop those business components and make use of them. And this application development is based on MVC model. What is MVC? Model View Controller. Maybe some of you guys have some idea about MVC model, and there is a similar way, a similar approach of developing an application in .NET side as well, which is Visual Studio. And this ADF provides a rich web or rich user interface to the end users, and you can customize your UI as per your requirement or as per your organization, and you can integrate with any data source, as I said, and there is an inbuilt security feature available within the ADF where you don't need to go for the third party to secure this application. And by using ADF, your development of an application makes simple, and it speeds up in points of organization. So if an organization wants to build an application, it is lot easier and less time consuming when you compare with the coding, and it increases the reusability across all the applications. If you build some functionality, or if you build some component in one page, you can always make use of that in any other pages or in any other applications if you want to build any other applications. And it's always a loosely coupled, so that makes easy for the developers and the organizations. In future, if there is any requirement changes, you can always do simple steps. And this is our ADF architecture. As I mentioned earlier, this is MVC model, which is a model, view, and controller. So this is a typical ADF architecture, and the bottom layer is going to be your data services. It could be a relational database, or it could be any XML data, or it could be any data sources. So, and in between the model and your database, there will be business service layer, which is it could be a web service, it could be our ADF business components. You can use as a business services, and it will do your job. And in the model is nothing but a connection between the database or any data source to your application. And the view controller is basically a UI part. It could be a browser, or it could be, if you're developing any desktop application, it could be a desktop one which will be integrated with your office or any UI type. And there will be metadata services. We will see this, what is metadata services and how it will use your database services and all these things in future classes. So before going to start our JDeveloper and starting our application development, I'm going to explain you what exactly we're going to do. So if you can download a JDeveloper and an Oracle database, you can always follow what I'm going to do now. And we're going to create a simple schema on DB, but in this video we are not going to create any schema, because we're going to utilize the existing one. HR schema comes with a database, and we are going to create a simple application which is MVC model, model view controller, and then we're going to create just a model part for today, which consists of EOs, VOs, and application modules. So what are these EOs, VOs? If you heard it first time, don't worry, I'm going to explain in detail. And we're going to deploy on WebLogic server. We're not going to deploy in any external WebLogic server, not a standalone server. We're going to create this model part, and we're going to deploy an integrated WebLogic server which comes in the JDeveloper, and we can test that developed ADF application. So let's go ahead and start our JDeveloper. Click on default role. So meanwhile, I'll show you the course content, what we are going to cover in this course. So this course is all about, like as I said, developing an application, a web-based application, and we will see how we use the JDeveloper features. This first introduction to Fusion and ADF will be covering in this video. So And next class, we will be seeing how you can explore this JDeveloper. Some of the features are covering in this video itself, but later we're gonna see in a greater detail. And in the database schema, how the designs, we can see that. We will explore that, and we will see how the tables and all those things. And later on, we're going to build our ADF business components and how you use the ADF business components in creation of that application development. And then later on, there will be much more complex topics, entity objects and all these things, view objects and how you make use of them. And there is an application module, which is a transaction context between this entity and view object. And we will see how the behavior of this entity and view objects by creating this application. And then there will be a business validations. You can use a groovy expression language, and some kind of rules are there in the JDeveloper ADF feature, like out of box feature as well. You can make use of them, and we will see how you use the validations. And understanding the ADF data bindings, and understanding the ADF task flows. What is task flow? Task flow is nothing but the navigation between the pages and any two components, or any pages. So that is called the task flow. And we can see enriching the page content, how you enrich, rich UI feel to the end users. And then we'll try to understand the layouts and the basics about the ADF faces skins and all these things. And we can also see the ensuring the reusability. If you make some functionality, and you can make use of that in across all your application. And this is the page navigation. We can see this, and handling application events, uh, and later on, like managing and validating data, and then transaction management, and then deploying ADF application in a full application. Right now we're going to see only the model part, how we can deploy in the WebLogic. If you want to download this, you can go to oraclefusionforall.com, and you can go to our downloads, and you can go to downloads, and there will be a link provided by our site about the ADF contents, and you can download this document over there. Okay, moving on. So this is our JDeveloper. I'm using 11.117. So I request you to guys to download the same version. There is 11.112 as well, the release 2, but we're going to use 11gr1 version, which is 11.117. There is advanced topics in 11g R2, which includes mobile application development, but today we are going to do only the web application development. Depending on requirement, you can always work on the versions available by the from the Oracle. But I would suggest you to guys, if you are learning, I would suggest you to download 11g R1. So this is how our JDeveloper looks like, and then go to the new application to build an application from the scratch. But before that, I will show you there are different ways to start an application. So you can click always here, new application here. So it will prompt you a separate window with a lot of options, like a generic application, a Fusion web application, Java desktop application, with the ADF, and the J2E web application. So today, this is all about the Fusion web application development with ADF. So we're going to choose this one, and you have to name your application name as a demo 1. So I will leave the package as a default, Oracle Fusion for all.com, and then click on next. We do have this, so let's name it as a different, ADF demo, click on next. So what it does, it will select for you what are the technologies required, because we have selected the application as a Fusion Web Application ADF, so it knows already what it required. So it selected already the ADF business components, and you might need a Java, so it is selected already. So go to next, and this is our default package. If you see, there is a project 1 and project 2. So what is this? If you go back, this is a model part, and if you see, so let's name this as a HR model and click on next, and I'm gonna leave this as a, excuse me 1 second, so I'm gonna leave this as a default and click on next. And this is a view controller. Our second project name is a view controller. If you remember, I said MVC model. So M means the model one, which is created as a project one, and the VC is a view controller, it comes in a project two. So let's name it as a HR view controller. Click on next. So I'm going to leave this as a default one. Click on finish. So it will create for you. It will create the MVC model application for you. So let's close this one. So what we need to do now is to create a connection to the database. So before doing that, let me open a notepad to this. So we created an MVC application, and then it created a model, and it created a view controller. And then now we're going to make a connection to the database that we have downloaded already, and which is HR schema, which we're going to use now. So let's make a connection to the database. How you make a connection? You go here, application resources, or there will be another way to do a connection. Let me show you that one as well. So you can right click here on connection and the database, and it will prompt you a window to make a connection, and name as a connection as HR connection. Use the name, so HR, and this will be your password, and this is a local host. Yes, it is, and I'm going to leave that a default port, and I'm going to connect, and I'm going to test the connection. So it is working, it is success. Click OK. So it made a connection to the database, HR database. So you can see all the artifacts of the database. So you can, if you want to see the tables, you can see from here itself. You don't need to open SQL Developer or something else. You can see always from JDeveloper as well. So these are all the tables here. These are all the triggers. You can see every artifacts of the database. So there is another way to make a connection as well. If you go to an application, the view, and if you see here database and the database navigator. So here also you can see this HR connection. So from the HR connection you can always view all our tables and all our artifacts here. So this is another way to do this. So let's close this. So now we have a connection. So all we have to do is we have to create a project model part. Today we're going to create only just the model part, which contains evo. I'll spell it out for you. Entity object, which we call it as a evo, the naming convention you will say, and the view object, which we call it as a vivo, and there is another one which is application module, call it as a am. So what is this evo, what is this vivo, and what is this am? So evo is nothing but, so before going that, let me put model, view, and controller, what these parts are doing. So model is a connection, db, or any data source, and we have a sub components under the model, which are entity object, view object, and application module. So it is another layer which sits on the database or your business service layer, and it enables the view and controller layers to work with the different implementations of the your business services. So we will understand in detail once we go further in the application development. So view is nothing but our user interface, and the controller will provide you UI application with the flow, or you can say it provides you the control over your UI application. Okay, so but in real time it comes combined like a HR model and a view controller. But if you cut it down into two pieces, then I would say view is a UI, user interface, and the controller provides you the control over your UI application, something like navigations and all these things. How you control the application is depending on the controller part. So let's see what is entity object. Entity object is, again, I would say, a connection to the database, and the vivo is nothing but our query, and our application module is a transaction context. So evo is nothing but a connection to the database, which is to a particular table, to particular table in database, particular table in the database. Okay, in our HR schema, which means it could be an employee table, or it could be any table in our HR schema. Okay, and vivo is a queries, which is, you don't need to write a query manually, but when you create this vivo, it will give you an option to select the attributes out of that table, and you can make a query out of this evo. So we will see that in this in a minute. And the application module is nothing but a transaction between these two, like between this evo and vivo. So what we're going to do now, we're going to create an entity object, and we're going to create a view object, and we're going to create an application module, which is a transaction. So I would say blindly the transaction is something like an application module is something like a component which is used to make a transaction in between EVO and VO. So it's just like you transferring money from one bank to another bank. So you need a transaction component to do that. So in our case, we have our application module to do the transaction. So let's go and create our. So you have to right click on the model part and click on new, and these are our the business components. We are going to use a business component which is EVO, VOs, and all these are business components provided by Oracle ADF. So now you have to look for the entity object, which is here, entity object, and click OK, and it will prompt you which schema you want to connect. Out of which schema you want to create a EVO, out of which schema you want to select a table. So I want to select the HR connection, which is only one available in our application. So click on OK. So it will prompt you a few steps to while we are creating the entity object. So here in this screen, it will ask you to name it your entity object, which is employees EVO, because I'm going to use employees table in HR schema. So I'm going to name it as employees EVO. EVO means entity object. So this is generic terminology, naming conventions used in my organization at least. So let's take it as an entity object. So you have to select your table. So you click on browse here and you click on query. Let's give a query here. So these are all the tables available in your schema. So we're going to create an employees EVO. So let's select the employees table. So you're selecting the table. This is nothing but the tables. So click on OK, click on next. We will see, you might see this one extending this. We will see this in our future classes. So click on next. So these are all the attributes presented in the table, employees table. So you can always remove if you don't want, and you can add any new attribute if you think you're going to use any new attributes. So for now I'm going to leave it as a default. Click on next. So here you can see some of the properties available to customize. So if you want to make this first name, it's not a mandatory. So if you want to change this as a mandatory, you can always do that. You can check it, and you can change it as a primary key. You can change it as unique. So all these things you can customize over here. So you can see for the all available attributes. So you can play around here depending on your requirement. So I'm going to leave it for now as a default, and you can see here updatable. So which means it is selected as a always updatable, which means you are allowing to the end user, you are allowing end user who is going to use this application to make a change. Always he can change, he or she can change this employee ID, or this whole EVO attributes. You are allowing to the user, they can make any changes over here. So this refresh after, we'll come to this later, and click next. And I'm not going to create any classes here. Click next, click finish. That's it. So it will create a foreign key relationships as well. We don't need that. I'm going to delete that, and here it is. This is our EVO created. So these are all our attributes, business rules. This will come in future classes. So we haven't created any Java classes there, so we don't have the Java classes. So let's go ahead and create a view object right now. So go to ADF business components and then select the view object and click OK. So if you see, there are four options. So I'm going to go with first option. We will discuss these two options for now. One is updatable access through entity object, which means we are allowing the users to update this Vivo, which means like they can edit the details of the users. For that, all attributes we are going to create it now. So let's name this Vivo as the employees Vivo, because this is a Vivo, so the naming convention I use as a view object as a Vivo. So click on next. So which Evo you're going to use for this Vivo, for the creation of this Vivo? So I'm going to use this employees Evo. So select this. So this is an updatable. Yes, I want to make it as an updatable Vivo. Um Click on next. So this screen, it will allow you to select the required attributes. So I want all attributes, so I want to click this one. It comes here, so that means you selected all the attributes to this Vivo from that Evo. So click on next, and again you will see some of the options to for your properties, for your attributes available here. So it's a similar thing, but you will see the less options when you compare to Evo. Click on next. So this is your query, this is our Vivo. So if you want to do any changes on top of it, there is always an option to do that. You can include your where class, or you can order by your first name or last name, or you can order by manager ID or salary, anything. So if you change any query before if you want to make sure, you can always do the test. If the query is valid, you're good to go. So click on next. Variables, we will come to this variable later. Click on next. I'm not generating any classes. Click on next. It will prompt you to create an application module, but we're not going to create our application module here. We're going to create an application module separately. I'll show you that. Click on next. So this is your summary. Click on finish. So that creates our Vivo. So these are all attributes. This is our entity object we used for this creation of the Vivo, and there is no Java classes here. So let's create our next task is to create an application module to make the transaction between this Evo and Vivo. What we're trying to do is we made a connection to the particular table, and we created a Vivo, which means the query, and we're going to create an application module, which is a transaction context. So let's create our application module. So business components and application module. Click OK, and let's say test application module. So as I said, the application module AM is our naming convention, and click on next. So this is the Vivo we're going to use for the transaction. So which Vivo you're going to do the transaction? This is our employees Vivo. So I know this. I want this Vivo to be transaction. So let's select this one and click on next. Let's leave this for now. Click on next. I'm not going to create anything. Click on next. This is your summary, and click on finish. So you have created your Evo, you have created your Vivo, and you have created your test application module to test these two Evos and Vivos. So now I want to save this, close all this. So now I want to test this. So how do we test it? So to test it, we have to click on the our test application module, right click, and you have to run it. Once you run it, what it's going to do, it will deploy in your integrated WebLogic server. It will run there, and it will prompt you a separate window. So click on right, run. So this is our a new window, which can you can view all your data from here. employees Vivo. So the transaction is done. So what we did, we when you run this test application module, so it did the transaction and gave you the output, which is nothing but a table of contents that you connected to employees Evo and Vivo. So these are all the attributes, and these are all the values from coming from the HR schema, coming from the employees table. So if you can see the next, you can see that you can go to last, you can go to first, and you can always add any new user, you can delete it if you think it's not the right one, and you can commit it always to the database, which will commit to your database. So there is a table view as well. If you can see this, you can see always in the tabular form. So the next step is, once you create this model part, then you're gonna make use of them in the view controller part, and the data controllers, how you create the pages and all these things you can see in the coming classes. So I hope you like my video. So please click on like if you like it. For more information, contact our oraclefusionforall.com. Thanks for watching.